In May of 2014, a Department of Defense document was declassified and made public that gained massive attention and raised the eyebrows of many in the media and general public. The document was titled ConPlan 8888, but was also known as Counter-Zombie Dominance, and was purported to be a DoD strategic command plan for how the U.S. military should defend against a potential zombie uprising. The document was written in 2011 as part of a fictional training scenario for junior officers undergoing training in contingency planning. United States Strategic Command instructors believed a zombie survival plan made for a very useful and effective training tool, while avoiding the political risks of using a real country in training scenarios. Even though the plan was, therefore, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, the fact that it was designed to be taken seriously by those working with it still led to some questioning whether such an outlandish idea was really an appropriate utilization of government time and resources. Others simply accepted it as the funny but understandably practical exercise it was, while at least a small minority of the public applauded its existence because they felt zombies really were something we should be at least somewhat realistically prepared for. Perhaps those beliefs were fueled by a much reported on incident a couple years previously, in 2012, when 31-year-old Randy Eugene, allegedly high on a street drug known as bath salts, drove to Miami Beach, stripped off all his clothes, and underneath a bridge on the MacArthur Causeway attacked a 65-year-old homeless man named Ronald Popo. Eugene first beat Popo unconscious, and then proceeded to bite off much of Popo's face above the beard line, leaving Popo severely disfigured. Police arrived and, horrified by the scene they came upon, confronted Eugene and shot him dead after he ignored their calls to stop, instead simply growling at them. Popo was rushed to the hospital, having lost his eyebrows, his nose, parts of his forehead and cheek, and his left eye, and was left totally blind due to the damage to his remaining right eye. He ultimately underwent months of reconstructive surgeries and was granted permission to remain living indefinitely at the medical facility, where he went on to reconnect with his estranged family and learn to play guitar. Eugene's attack on Popo, which came to be known in the media as the Miami Cannibal Attack, was largely caught on video thanks to nearby surveillance cameras, and the viral footage sparked many debates, some morbidly joking and others genuinely concerned, about whether or not bath salts-based psychosis might in fact lead to an epidemic that would resemble the first real-life zombie outbreak. It's not surprising, then, that some of the attack footage would end up in the opening credits of a high-profile, big studio zombie movie just the very next year. A film that also, despite most likely not having access to the then not-yet-declassified ConPlan 8888, similarly examined the notion of a large-scale governmental response to a global zombie apocalypse. The year is 2013, and Paramount Pictures are ready to release an eagerly anticipated but also well-known troubled big-budget adaptation of a popular horror novel, and in the process hopefully launch the next big zombie movie franchise with World War Z.
10, Welcome once again to Failure to Franchise, the show dedicated to some of Hollywood's most infamous mistakes, missteps, and misfires. This is Trev.
And I'm Chris. And Trev, I go to the movies to escape real life. And, I didn't think I needed to watch a zombie movie to see violent chaos erupt between Israelis and Palestinians.
Well, you say you're like, this is too realistic, but I was actually going to come at the other, like, kind of viewpoint of it, right? In that, you and I have watched a lot of, like, very fantastical movies for this podcast. We've watched movies about worlds made of water. We've watched movies about, like intergalactic conflict and monsters, the universal monsters. We've watched movies about serial killers who can go through like electrical outlets to attack people. But then I think this week takes the cake, because here we have a movie that shows Israel open up its borders to allow Palestinians in during an international conflict, and depicts Brad Pitt as a loving father. What kind of sci-fi fantasy nonsense is this,
And what is it saying that when they let them in, everything goes to shit?
I know. Maybe we'll talk about this.
Okay,
I know, especially when we talk about some of the people involved in this movie behind the scenes. So,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I guess I should think that movie is recent. We are wrapping up our summer surprise.
Yes.
With this episode, this is this it's kind of sad. It's always a little bittersweet to end a fun theme. But for those who haven't been listening, this is the series where we allowed an online randomizer to pick our summer movies, and pretty exciting one. I know you keep calling this one a controversial one. We'll kind of we'll talk about that as well. But I definitely think this counts. And that is 2013's World War Z. So Chris, why don't you tell our listeners about it?
For sure. And I will say, when we get to it proper and talk about, why sequels didn't happen, I actually agree with you. After doing much more of the research rather than just announcements and stuff. This if a sequel gets made for this with capital I, capital F, extremely different. We'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this one, World War Z, or Z, for my Canadian listeners.
There's none.
Don't
worry.
Yeah. I don't even listen to it.
They don't have podcast technology in Canada yet.
I'm in an igloo right now, like tap, 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 tap,
Yeah.
tap, tap.
How do I get podcasts on whale blubber?
Yeah. Wow. All right, time to go. Okay. Okay, World War Z, directed by Mark Forster. He directed Monsters Ball, Finding Neverland, and Quantum of Solace. This is written by 4 credited screenwriters. The first one being J. Michael Straczynski. He wrote The Twilight Zone. He's the creator of Babylon 5. He wrote Thor, the original one from 2011. He also created the show Sense8 with the Wachowskis. Did you watch Sense8?
I have not got around to it yet. I keep meaning to because I've heard good things, but I have not.
Yeah.
When I think of J. Michael Straczynski, I still do think of Babylon 5, even though I was never a Babylon 5 guy, but he's just so ingrained with that franchise. And even I know now he's trying to bring it back. Also a really prolific comic book writer. In my day, he was a long-running Spider-Man writer, and he's written a lot of other stuff. Cool. So yeah, definitely a big sci-fi name. And when you say The Twilight Zone, we should point out, people are like, we talk about that. He's not Rod Serling. We're talking about one of the Twilight Zone reboots, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
The second writer that came on was Matthew Michael Carnahan. He wrote Lions for Lambs, State of Play, and Deepwater Horizon, which I'm pretty big fan of. I like that movie. Only seen it once, but very effective. Then Damon Lindelof had to show up and
Heard of him?
He created Lost, which is, I'll just say, is my personal favorite drama of all time. He created.
Did you know they were dead the whole time?
Don't you dare! Don't keep that going.
Can I just a quick sidebar?
Sure.
Sorry, because
No,
I know
I'll allow it.
I just watched an interview with Simon Pegg recently where he was still propagating that as the ending.
Oh my
And I'm like,
God, really?
Come on, Simon Pegg, you one of the ultimate nerds, you don't know better?
And he's in the Bad Robot family.
I know, yeah.
What a dope. Anyway. He also made The Leftovers, Watchmen. That was great. And he is currently the show just aired last night. Yeah, Lanterns. Yeah. Also, the fourth writer, Drew Goddard. He wrote for Angel, Alias, Cloverfield, Lost, Cabin in the Woods. He's one of the Bad Robot guys, as I just said. And he wrote The Martian, which is people were talking about this year because of Project Hail Mary. So, a pretty great amount of talent here. Honest to God, all 4 of these writers are pretty
look
awesome.
at and you go wow, 4 really good writers, but then you go, why did they need 4 great writers?
Yes,
So
correct.
that's
Correct. But it is inspired, the writing doesn't stop here, Trev. It was inspired by the novels written by Max Brooks. This is Mel Brooks' son. He wrote for SNL, and he's primarily an author at this point. But he wrote the Zombie Survival Guide, and then followed it up with World War Z, An Oral History of the Zombie War. My sidebar, the Zombie Survival Guide, did that inspire Zombieland? Or is that more of a snake eating its own tail thing going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never. I mean, I guess to some degree it must have.
It must
right?
have.
Yeah. I mean, the Zombie Survival Guide was one of those early texts that really just played into that whole re-emergent zombie thing that was happening in the early 2000s, because that's when the zombie genre in general blew up really big again. And people, I don't know if it's kind of like forgotten about now. Maybe not, because the book, I can tell you both these books still sell. But the Zombie Survival Guide was like such a big deal at the time in 2003 when it came out. Like people like loved that book. And we'll talk about that soon, I'm sure. But
the budget of World War Z, the movie, began at $125 million. It ballooned to $190 million, and there's some reports out there that that it creeped up to $269 million to make this movie. Paramount spent $160 million to market it worldwide. So a fair bit of change was used to make this film, and I say that because domestically it made $202 million, and then worldwide $540 million, which is like very impressive. $500 million for this type of movie is kind of wild. It is the highest grossing zombie film of all time, still to this day.
And until F1 last year, it was Brad Pitt's highest grossing film.
Correct. So that is like a huge amount of money, but they just spent too much to start, which we'll get to. But I did want to start here with that book. I obviously know of it, and I've heard Max Brooks
I'm going to go on a limb and say you haven't read it.
No, I can't read. But I know Max Brooks. Like I've listened to him talk about the book a lot. I've seen many interviews with him. But I guess this book was kind of deemed unfilmable at the time because it's like it plays like almost like a UN report covering a zombie apocalypse, right?
It's right there in the title, right? It's an oral history, which, by the way, is like that's like my favorite kind of nonfiction book is oral history. I just got done reading another one. It was this like the oral history of punk rock.
Okay. Cool.
So for those who aren't like, I don't know, maybe there's not big readers or whatever who don't like, an oral history is literally where you go and interview like everybody.
I don't think a lot of Gen Z even knows what oral is.
No, well, they refused to. They probably didn't watch this movie because they heard it was based on something called oral history. I'm not watching something oral in the title. But yeah, it's where you like interview everybody you can that experienced an event firsthand, and then you present like the snippets of their interviews like throughout the book. So it's like you're getting, and I love that as like a history. I think it's the best kind of history book because you get to see people disagree on how something played out and different perspectives, and that's better than one person's perspective. Obviously, it presents a fuller picture, and you're getting a better like a wide idea of what happened. But this whole thing was like this was Max Brooks' thing at the time, right? Was gimmicky zombie books. So as you said, he starts with the Zombie Survival Guide, which is just as it purports to be in the title. It's a manual telling you what to do in a zombie outbreak. And I'll just say, like, I was never that hot on the Zombie Survival Guide, which might be surprising because I'm a huge zombie guy. Like, my favorite movie is Night of the Living Dead, and it's just it's like my favorite, or one of my favorite subgenres in general. And so it's like, I should have loved the Zombie Survival Guide, but I felt like it was one joke kind of stretched to the extreme. It's like, It's kind of like, I don't think it's super fun to read from cover to cover because you kind of get the joke immediately. Like, oh, okay, it's just telling you the things to do that the things that the bad characters do stupidly in the movies, and the characters who survive do this better, and just putting that into manual form. But I loved World War Z, and like that was like a sensation in 2006 as well. And so here it was taking like, the oral history format that I already love, and then writing a fictionalized version of that where the zombie war, there's been a zombie outbreak to, post-apocalyptic war, and it's over. Humanity has won, and now we are reading the historical account of it afterwards. So yeah, I think because the book was such a sensation, right away there was a lot of thought of how do we do can we do a movie? And I think most people, including me, felt like, well, I guess if you do a movie, you got to do it like a fake documentary, right? Like that's the way to do it. Like it'll be like it would be like you're watching a History Channel documentary, but it'll be about the zombie war. And then you get into questions of like, okay, but is that cinematic enough to make a big kind of star-studded movie? Maybe not. Maybe that would work better as like a TV movie or a show. So obviously that's not the direction they decided to go. But that's when people say that it was unfilmable, that's probably why. It's certainly not filmable in the format the book was.
Yeah, there's no hero character. Yeah, totally.
I will say, though, it's like if you're at all interested in it, especially now, as we're going to talk about the movie and knowing that they're quite different, The audiobook version of World War Z rules, and it's like definitely worth checking out because they got a full cast to do it, and it's a star-studded cast too. So like because the book is written as like different people being interviewed in every chapter, they just have different people play those characters, including Alan Alda, Mark Hamill, John Turturro, Henry Rollins. So it's just got
sweet.
A cool, yeah, it's really neat.
Oh, I might actually hit you up on that for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay, cool. Let's talk, I guess. I mean, it was a sensation. I do remember hearing about the book a lot, right? And like I know you moonlight, at the bookstore. So I think you just said that it still sells.
It does still sell, yeah.
It does,
and really quickly too, I want to say too, the other thing about the book was how seriously it treats the topic, right? Too, and that's the thing. So the very thing that I thought made the zombie survival guide dry, the fact that it's one joke and it takes the joke so seriously for too long.
Sure.
That's what makes World War Z rule, is that it takes this seriously, so it reads like a real history where it really gets into the science of this, like scientists trying to figure this out. It gets into the actual geopolitical ramifications of something like this. Talking about how different world governments would respond and how would the nations band together. It talks about the military strategies used to try and fight back against this, and it's not tongue in cheek. The whole thing is played very, very straight, and that really works for this kind of horror.
And you can see why, Mark Forster and Paramount were like, we could make at least a trilogy out of this. There's a lot to cover. So let's start there. Let's start with I guess Brad Pitt's Man of the Hour here. But his production company Plan B, they secured the rights to this after a bidding war in 2007, and then hired J. Michael Straczynski. He was saying that this was going to be like a reminiscent of a 1970s conspiracy thriller. He started talking about the Bourne Identity being a bit of an inspiration for him. Action, political intrigue. And then Max Brooks has stated that he had zero control over this, which isn't like surprising.
Yeah.
However, I did think maybe, like a Brooks would have some influence. Wouldn't you say so?
It's maybe like slightly interesting that his dad was never involved on like a producer level, because obviously his dad is like not just he's not just Mel Brooks, the comedy filmmaker. As we know, he's also a great producer who produced things like The Elephant Man and The Fly.
Totally.
And so he's done like surreal stuff and horror stuff. But also, I have a sense Max Brooks strikes me as one of those guys who never really wanted to trade in on his father's fame either. He wanted to strike out and make his own name. And it has to be said that this was like only his second book, his first kind of like fiction narrative book. And yeah, when you're an emerging author and you sell the rights, you usually do not have any control. He just wasn't a big enough name to like have any real say or push on this. So yeah, like you said, it's not surprising, I guess, that he was kind of pushed off to the side. And I mean, for him, it only still enhanced the reputation of the book, right? It got it more out there. So I'm sure ultimately he's fine. I'm sure he's happy with this.
Yeah, totally.
Whatever he thinks of the movie, I'm sure it's like the book sold more copies because of it.
Yeah, and it still sells. So
yeah.
But that early script was leaked in 2008 to Ain't It Cool News. Remember them? Listeners that are of a lesser age of me and Trev, Ain't It Cool News was like the pop culture movie website. This is where they got every scoop. Everything was leaked to them. This was like the crux of pop culture, erupted at Ain't It Cool. A lot of their authors went on to do great things and moved on. The founder of Ain't It Cool is Harry Knowles. He's a fucking loser.
Sex pest, pervert, criminal.
Yeah, totally. Not even allegedly, just shitty. So, but a lot of the writers that came out of Ain't It Cool are pretty amazing. And it was cool back in the day when like Twitter wasn't around, Facebook wasn't around, but this little site that could, which always looked like ass.
Yeah, terribly designed. Yeah.
Terribly designed. But it was like the hotspot it broke all the news. So very, very cool. I'm sure the studio didn't like the script being leaked there, but
yeah, I was gonna say it was cool at the time, but also you can trace that back to like maybe like the beginning of the end of film journalism.
Totally.
And like also like the entire swing to like where the nerds got control of like pop culture and the fans started to like dictate how movies are made. That all can be traced back to Ain't It Cool News. So it's like it's a double-edged sword kind of story, right? Where it seemed like the people taking the power back at the time, and you can actually see it now as the beginning of like that stupid like Star Wars Last Jedi fandom culture. It's like born of Ain't It Cool News. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, because maybe it already exists, but has there ever been like a documentary made about Ain't It Cool News? Like, or am I just like thinking that should be a thing? I think that would be an amazing documentary. I think.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I mean, you said, a lot of those writers are still like great writers or podcasters or whatever, and I'm sure it'd be very interesting to hear from them. I don't know how much they want to talk about their like relationship with Harry Nels, but yeah, who knows? Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely watch it or read a really good book. I think there's a book about it. I haven't read that. Maybe I should track that down. Yeah,
but the script was leaked to them, and they started talking about it being like Best Picture material. They even started to compare it to Children of Men, which is like, a masterpiece. So there was a lot of hype right now. However, just a few months later, Straczynski is talking about the script, saying it's still in development, it's still being delayed, we still need to do a lot of work on it, it's far from a realization, and unfortunately, he needs to move on to other projects. So they get the script rewritten by Matthew Michael Carnahan in July of 2009. He's confident that he's going to get it made in 2010, San Diego Comic-Con, 1 year before my first Comic-Con, by the way. They announce Mark Forster is directing, and Brad Pitt is confirmed to star in it. And then they go to Paramount at the 11th hour to get one David Ellison. Again, we talked about this guy a little too much recently, but they need Skydance, they need Paramount to fund this thing because it's coming with a hefty budget. Notice how I said that they're in the beginning.
This is what I was alluding to earlier. Maybe.
No, go ahead. This is, again, another standoff.
This is what I was alluding to earlier. In my mind, David Ellison comes in and goes, I really like this. I will co-finance it. Can we talk about that Israel scene a little bit and who should maybe cause the problem here? Like,
Yeah. But, okay, listeners, remember, I said there was 4 writers, right? Well, there's 2 right now. And we're going into production, okay? So we'll get back to that later. But we're going into pre-production. We're filming in Malta, we're filming in Scotland, we're filming in Budapest. Like, this is supposed to be an international tale, And I think that's why they looked at Mark Forster. He had just come off of Bond, so maybe they're looking to get a Bondy feel for it. That was my thoughts. Why would they go to Mark Forster?
Yeah, I mean, he's coming off of the Bond, the Daniel Craig one that's probably like the least respected. Well, I don't know. It's
for now.
That
For now.
I don't know. Yeah. But like, people didn't love that movie, but it still was like a hit, and like usually that's all that matters when he talks in Hollywood, obviously. And at this point, he has like a decent enough like track record with like Monsters Ball and Finding Neverland and stuff. So
and they want to make a serious movie. That's the thing. They want to make a really serious, gritty geopolitical thriller.
He'd also done The Kite Runner, which was another literary adaptation of like kind of an international drama story. So it's like he had his bona fides in like international literary drama and action, and this movie's trying to combine those two things. So it kind of makes sense, even if I know I've seen some people talk about how like Mark Forster's one of those directors that has kind of no vision, or you can't really, you don't get a vibe of like what a Mark Forster movie is. But I think this is one of those cases where they wanted him more because they knew this was going to be a big, expensive production. They wanted to, get it out on time. We'll talk about all that. Yeah. But like his like experience seemed like it would like be well suited to this movie.
Totally. A bunch of units, globetrotting, totally. Yeah, that makes sense. Like I said, Glasgow, Malta, Budapest, and they are spending money. I guess that's what I'm getting at here. Like, there's not a lot to talk about in the production of it. They are just spending cash. And when they are putting the movie together in post-production, they realize something is missing. Something is wrong. It's not gelling. Because again, Brad Pitt, Paramount, everybody involved, Mark Forster, want to make a great movie. They want to make it serious. They want people to come out to this. So they bring on Damon Lindelof to rewrite the entire third act. He's on records. Oh, sorry. What do you want to say?
I was just about to say, and I think you know this too, is like he's kind of like we think of David Lindelof, and obviously me and you, our minds immediately go to Lost and Watchmen and Leftovers. But he also was one of those like Hollywood script doctor guys. Totally. He was like often brought in to like fix problems with screenplays. Like he has that ability to look at a screenplay and identify what's not working, and like come in and like zhuzh it up and like fix problems. So it makes sense to go to him at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's on record saying there's inefficiencies to the script. It ends abruptly and it doesn't feel right. There's a huge piece missing to this. So he goes to the executives and he says, you got two options. And the one that they do choose is to go do reshoots for like, I think 7 weeks to shoot almost 30 to 40 minutes of additional footage to change the ending.
To scrap the third act they had already filmed.
Entirely. Yes. Yeah. Which was supposed to be in Russia. Have a climactic battle.
Gigantic battle in Russia, which is from the book. The Battle of Russia is like a very big thing that happens in the book. So you can understand why they wanted it to be the end of the movie. But they just realized it was not, to their minds, it was not working in the movie.
And I guess what they say it wasn't working is that Brad Pitt's character kind of becomes more of a warrior, hero, action man versus like this sympathetic family man, which I think the movie's going for. So they scrap it entirely. All that money, just take a flame. They're the Joker at the end of Dark Knight,
too, right? Like,
totally.
We talk about like movies that like the like the Batgirl thing, where these movies that just get disappeared now. This obviously isn't to that level, but they've never like released that third act as like an extra or anything. There's like a little small pieces of it have ended up online. There's a little bit of it still in the movie, but we'll probably never see that. And think about all that money spent, all those people worked on it. Yeah.
Yeah, to reshoot like again upwards of 40 minutes of the movie is kind of insane. But this is a big project. So Damon Lindelof goes to work, and unfortunately, he's got other shit to do. So he can't finish this. So he looks to his friend Drew Goddard, who then comes on board to finish his work. And as I was saying, Paramount Plan B and Brad Pitt simply said, let's take the time to make this movie the best version of the movie before we put it on the screen for an audience. And what Drew Goddard says is, well, that doesn't happen a lot. So this is kind of where money keeps being spent on the reshoots, other overages. The budget balloons to around $190 million. And again, reports up to $269 million. And the studio heads don't really know that this is happening. Brad Pitt's like, let's make it as best as we can with other people's money. So that's what they're doing. And they go as far as to changing a bunch of scenes. Like I said, they take out the climactic battle. This was funny. They changed a scene, allegedly, where characters speculate that the zombie outbreak originated in mainland China. Very reminiscent to, well... Yeah. Where everybody pretended that it didn't come from there, but it did. Okay, it wasn't racist to say so. It came from them. Anyway, the Chinese censors would have rejected it, so they changed the scene, and they pushed the release date back. And basically, the biggest issues of this movie were all in post-production, reshoots, money, re-edits, everything.
Yeah,
so.
I wanted to ask you before we even get into our thoughts on the movie, like as it turned out, but like, how do you feel about all this? Because like, I'm kind of torn as we read it, because like, I see what Drew Goddard is saying, right? Where he's like, this doesn't happen a lot, where like, the people making the movie want to take the time and effort and money to make it the best they can.
Yeah.
And like, obviously there's something kind of admirable to that, right? Like that's something you don't see, like there too often in recent years, we've watched movies just get shit out when you look at them and go, wow, that could have used 6 more months of work. Supergirl. Like, right. Where you go like, oh, this could have used some more time and, maybe a third act reshoot, like all this stuff. And you go like, this is one where they did take the time. But then like you said, it also is like, that's a lot of money. And it's like, it's that weird middle ground between taking the time to get the art right, or at least, better, but also
and taking
like
advantage of
the Hollywood excess
totally.
at play,
Yes. Yeah, it's like the Met Gala of movie making. You know, it's just like what's going on here. Yeah, I agree with you. Admirable, but
ridiculous.
But ridiculous. Yeah, like this amount of money should not be spent. You know, and I say that as like an Avatar lover. You know what I mean? like I get it when people are like, oh yeah, movies like cost $500 million to make, but yet, you know, people are starving on food stamps. You know, like I mean, two truths. You know, I don't know. It's a tough one. You know, when you get these. Okay, speaking of sidebar, I was at a concert last night, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the bands, the main headliner band, they've been around for like 30 years. Started like talking about charities, you know. And I don't know about you when you go to concerts, but I really can't stand when they stop so much and talk, you know. Mm-hmm. Like just play the fucking songs, you know. That's what I'm here for. Just play the fucking songs. I don't need you to proselytize, because again, we're all with you. We get it. And he was like talking about cancer, and like we work with an organization that, you know, hates cancer. And then I looked over at my wife. I'm like clapping. I'm like, yeah, we know. I hate cancer too. You know, like it just felt so whatever. And then I looked at my wife and I go, why don't they just donate the whole fucking proceeds of this goddamn, you know, arena tour, then ask for money? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was just like, so that's my sidebar. I hope you can see the connective tissue of what I'm saying. Anyway, I think that's actually a great segue because Brad Pitt was the one to say, let's get this done. Let's get this done right.
The reason this happened is because they did have a leading man with the clout to get that done, and who had been the one who spearheaded the whole thing, right? Like he apparently liked the book. His company bought the rights to the book. He wanted this to be a Brad Pitt project, and he had the juice at this time. I mean, arguably, you could say maybe he still does. I don't know. We'll talk about that.
He's never not. I think that's what I was going to say. He's never not had the juice. Like, Brad Pitt. Okay, this is what I'm saying. We've said this a million times on this podcast that Tom Cruise is the last movie star. Mm-hmm. I think Brad Pitt's in there too. Like, we don't talk about him as much, but I think Brad Pitt, he is undoubtedly a movie star from start to finish. And I think, especially after last year's F1, that really put it into perspective for me, being like, wow, people like really came out for that Brad Pitt movie.
He's a movie star of like a different. Yeah, he's obviously like a holdover of a different era. He's a movie star of like a different level than Tom Cruise, because what I noted, like looking at the box office of this and seeing how it was the highest grossing one until F1. F1 and how high it grossed is actually kind of an anomaly for Brad Pitt. And like even this was, right? So you look at his career and you go like, wow, Brad Pitt was never in like a lot of like gigantic box office hits. He was just in so many dependable, pretty good hits, you know? Mm-hmm. And like that's the thing, is like he was one of those, he was in that right time, that like the time that Matt Damon talks about, right? Where a movie would like do pretty well in theaters and then clean up even more on DVD and cable. And he's from that era. And he was just so omnipresent on our screens, and his movies, he didn't have a lot of huge failures. He had some, obviously, but in general, his stuff was pretty dependable. So even though he never had, I wouldn't call him like on the level of Tom Cruise in that he hasn't had that many hits of that size. Sure. But as you said, he just kind of like never went away. He was plugged along.
That and a total tabloid star.
Tabloid star, yes.
Yeah.
And also like it's like it's two things, right? So for the people like they love that shit, like both the good and the bad, and we'll talk about both, I'm sure. He has that tabloid star thing, but then for like the film nerds, like if you look at the beginning of Brad Pitt's career, I think it's like probably hard to back then expect that he would go on to be like a film bro favorite, but he's one of those guys who early on was like, you know what, I kind of hate how handsome I am. I don't want to be the handsome leading man guy. I want to be a character actor. And he's like one of those guys who feel like he's almost like cursed by his looks. And he's like, I want to be weird. I want to be weird on screen. Yeah. And I think a lot of his like most boring, I mean, like I know you love F1 a lot more than I do. I think it's okay. I think I don't love when watching him just play like a normal guy. Sure. I like when Brad Pitt goes wild, you know? So that's, and thankfully he likes to do that. So he kind of hits on both sides of like the film dynamic there.
And he likes to take the piss of himself. You know, like in his movies, he gets hurt. He gets killed sometimes. He's silly. He's got that, like, you know, when he does that, like that big laugh That Brad Pitt big laugh. Yeah. Like he's very, I mean, we're talking about Brad Pitt. He's he's a very talented guy. But it did kind of shock me when I was reminded that his first Oscar he just won. Mm-hmm. Hey, like for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You would have thought he'd have 3 by now with how versatile he is. But only recently, 2019.
Hey, I also want to say, while we're doing all this, I think it's time we give a little love to our stunt coordinators and our stunt crews. Listen, I'm a big gobsmacked. I'm not one to look back, but this has made me do so, and I think of my folks taking me to the drive-in to see Butch and Sundance, and loading up my car and moving out here, and Gina and Ridley giving me my first shot, to all the wonderful people I've met along the way, to stand here now. Once upon a time in Hollywood, ain't that the truth? This is for my kids who color everything I do. I adore you. Thank you.
So, but yeah, no, I love the guy. I watched recently when I was doing serial killer thrillers. This wasn't really that, but it was like a 90s one with him and Harrison Ford. I watched The Devil's Own, and he's doing like the worst Irish accent of all time.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Yeah, he's got some bad ones in there too, for sure. So,
but they're fun, you know. And he's not great. It's like the Keanu Reeves thing too, you know. Like Keanu Reeves can't really do an accent, but he's so charismatic. Yeah, you just like the guy, you know.
Mm-hmm. Ewan McGregor, I just saw End of Oak Street, and like Ewan McGregor is so likable. He's so charismatic. Still can't do an American accent.
I know,
but yeah.
I know. I saw that in your review. It's been like 30 years and still can't do it. It's wild. But yeah, no, Brad Pitt has been omnipresent in our lives. But again, because of like, especially the tabloid stuff, like, his dating history of like all his co-stars and being engaged to Gwyneth Paltrow, and the story of him confronting Harvey Weinstein, like fuck off, basically, for being a creep. And then of course, like the Brangelina days, right? Like that was wild. That took over the world. Where it was like, are you team Angelina Jolie or team Jennifer Aniston? And it's like, it's a very gross time in our, I guess, celeb culture. I don't know if it's gotten any better.
No.
Unsure. But that one was like a monumental microscope on their lives.
Yeah.
And then like even all the jokes about their kids, like with Jolie, they like adopted a bunch, they had a bunch, they were going to different countries to pick up kids, and it became like this joke of like they had like a throng of children from like all over the world. So we've talked about Angelina Jolie in our Salt episode, I think most primarily, correct? Mm-hmm. But she's like quite a bit, like she's a humanitarian, like through and through. So I was reading the notes about all the pictures they sold to like the magazines and everything for like their children and their newborns and this, and like they donated all that money, like $14 million donated to the Jolie Pitt Foundation, $4.1 million donated to charities serving African children. So their little empire that they had for a couple years really felt strong.
I think it's safe to say now in retrospect who was probably driving a lot of those decisions.
Correct. Yes. And that was Angelina Jolie. Yes. But, as great as I will talk about Brad Pitt, I will say he's got an even better PR manager, because the last couple of years, I'm sure people have heard, but for whatever reason, they don't care. Brad Pitt has been alleged to be kind of a abuser.
Not the best person in the world. Yeah. And it's like, that's the thing. Like I agree with you that it's like wild that he didn't get an Oscar until Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's even more wild that they waited until this stuff kind of had become public to give him an Oscar. So
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like he gets his Oscar at a time
How
where
how Hollywood is that, by the way?
Yeah, I know. He got the Oscar at the time where we had to feel kind of weird about it, where we're like, oh, okay. Like, could have given this to me before I knew about this shit, or to him before I knew about this shit, Yeah.
This is for my kids who color everything I do. I adore you.
And not to like, defend, abusive allegations. I'm not doing that. But he has had some issues with sobriety and alcohol. And, that's something I think if you are as powerful as Brad Pitt is and how much money you have, like, it is something that I think is maybe I'm going to sound bad here, but maybe something that's easier or should be easier to deal with than just your normal guy who's working 9 to 5, 3 jobs. Like, I just feel like Brad Pitt has so many people in his corner to like help him to not be shitty.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
It is also kind of frustrating. I've seen other people talk about this, and I can't help but agree. So, because I'm kind of with you in that the relationship with Brad Pitt is very strange in that, the revelations we've had about him kind of tell me, like, I mean, he's not a man to respect. Like you raise your hand to your wife and your kids, the way he did, and like
to be fair, he has face blindness. Maybe he didn't know.
It's like, I don't respect the man anymore, but I can't deny that I like the actor,
Correct.
like he's a great actor, and I will always like the Brad Pitt films I like, and I'm not going to deny that I still am. I'm really excited for The Adventures of Cliff Booth. We
are really good at separating the art from the artist. I'll say
it's just disappointing. It is disappointing that he has not spoke on this, and that you always want them to take like a little bit of responsibility for like what they've done.
Yeah.
This is for my kids who color everything I do. I adore you.
And kind of show some contrition. And instead, as you said, he kind of did the more old school Hollywood thing and just put his head down. Obviously got great PR teams to bury a lot of this stuff or make it like not a big deal, and just kind of plugged along. And I've seen some critics talk about this, how they've noticed that the roles he's chosen since then, he's kind of like, he takes like less challenging material because
like crowd pleasers.
And they said part of that is that he doesn't want to get himself involved in like press runs that would lead to like more tough questions about thematics and stuff, because he doesn't want to. He just kind of wants to like leave all that shit behind now. So it definitely like changed even the trajectory of his career, I think. But obviously, it didn't hurt him as like a box office attraction, and because he's a man, I mean, like think about we talked about this in the Salt episode, all the fallout and all the like hard times Angelina Jolie has had because people thought she was weird or whatever, and then her husband like hits her and gets an Oscar. So I don't know, it's.
And I'm not usually like this. I'm not usually this guy, but he's also a white man. Mm-hmm. And right before we got on this podcast, me and you were just talking about a little movie that never happened called Avengers: Kang Dynasty.
Yeah.
And where Jonathan Majors
Yep.
did the same thing and loses basically his entire career.
Yeah.
So I'm not, just kind of, both bad.
Yeah.
But Brad Pitt is definitely,
he's been protected by Hollywood, I guess is what we're trying to say, ultimately.
Big time. That legal battle was crazy too, with like their vineyard and all that stuff. Like there's abuse, obviously, allegedly, but then like all the legal stuff, like I guess what I'm getting at is, I mentioned that they seemed like they had a pretty great little empire going on with, great little family and big family, I guess, but like humanitarian and both so talented, both so beautiful. To end in such a cataclysmic just conflict against one another, just like kind of sucks, Like,
I mean,
I take no pleasure talking about it. I guess.
To be fair, the relationship did start in infidelity, but
allegedly, for sure.
Yeah.
Remember when they tried to say no? That didn't happen, but they were hanging out for the entire year.
Yeah.
And also, Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a great movie, so that's an awesome movie. Love the movie. Okay.
And oddly enough, for your Matrix moments, I watched a movie with Jennifer Aniston today, and that wasn't even planned. Yeah.
Nice. Look at you doing your part for her, Team Jen. Okay, one last thing before we go to break and then listen to the trailer and talk about the movie. Listeners, if you have not watched Babylon from 2022, watch that movie.
Yes. Please.
That's all that is going to be in 20 years from now. Maybe not even that long.
I'm already seeing it.
You are?
It.
Okay, yeah. That movie is a goddamn masterpiece. It is fantastic. It is just an incredible movie.
No, I do
if you
think
don't
Babylon
like it, there's something wrong with you.
I do think Babylon is the next movie that will get the Speed Racer treatment. I think it's already starting to brew a little bit. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, go watch Babylon, and then we'll see you on the other side of this.
This is for my kids who color everything I do. I adore you.
Yeah, are these the roots?
What is it?
Statue of Liberty or snowman?
Blackout is declared martial law.
Daddy, what's martial law? I'm scared.
How do we know they're coming?
They're coming. Ready? It's the same worldwide. Is anyone doing better than we are?
We've lost the East Coast. Moscow's still dark. Life as we know it will come to an end in 90 days. It's on us to change that.
I can't leave my family.
Don't pretend your family is exempt. When we talk about the end of humanity.
I don't want to leave you, but I have to go.
I'll keep our kids safe.
There's a memo sent from this installation.
Pretty obvious nobody back home bothered to read it.
If I could get into Russia, where would I start?
Russia's a black hole.
I need answers.
Guns are half measure.
You with the CIA?
But they're not with me.
Karen.
Is there anything left out there?
If we knew where this thing started, then maybe we could kill it.
I think these things have a weakness.
Every human being we save is one less to fight.
When former UN investigator Jerry Lane and his family get stuck in urban gridlock, he senses that it's no ordinary traffic jam. His suspicions are confirmed when the city erupts into chaos. A lethal virus spread through a single bite is turning people into something vicious and feral. As the pandemic threatens to consume humanity, Jerry leads a worldwide search to find the source of the infection and, with luck, a halt to its spread.
Chris, do you think if this movie was released as is today, that the fact that one of the main heroic characters is Segan, the Israeli soldier, you think that would just... People would have nothing to say about that, right?
That's how you get the best picture.
I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Anyways, I'll go first on this one, Chris.
Sure.
Because
please.
I have a story to tell about this. Not a long story or anything, but as I was alluding to in the first part of our episode, I am a huge zombie fan, and obviously I was a huge fan of the book World War Z. So I was always very kind of interested in the idea of the movie, and as I said, I remember after I read the book, talking to people about it and being like, that would be so cool if people made a movie of this and did it like the book, where it's a documentary. And then I heard the movie was happening. I heard the names involved, and they were names I liked in terms of the writers and Brad Pitt at the time and everything. But once I started to get a vibe of like what the movie was, and as you said, this is one of those movies that all the stuff we just covered in the beginning was not like hidden from the public. This is a movie that like by the time it hit theaters, it was kind of like it was known that this was a nightmare production. And that like they had like scrapped the ending and everything. It was just one of those like, oh my god, this is like destined to fail because of how like how out of control this production was and how they had to bring in multiple writers. So I remember like it being like a surprise hit at the time, right? Because people were just like primed for this to be like one of Hollywood's great bombs or whatever. And to my end of that is like, by the time it hit theaters, I was like kind of dreading it. I was like, I don't know, man. It's not the movie I thought they should make of this book. I can just tell they turned it into like a big, dumb, big blockbuster CGI zombie action fest, which is not what I wanted. I wanted a very smart, philosophical zombie drama like the book. And the reason I went and saw it, you brought this up before. You brought up the idea of getting to go to like pre-release screenings. I think I've talked in here before too, how I used to write for a movie website. That's actually where I met our buddy Brian Chrisopowitz. We both wrote for that site. He still does. But because I wrote for that site at the time, I was on the Detroit Film Critics press list. And so I got to go to like a lot of advanced screenings at that time. And World War Z was one of the ones I was invited to. And I was like, you know what? Fine. I think this looks like shit. I'm primed to like not like it. But I will go see it. And I'll never forget, because all my friends knew I was going to see it. And they were like, oh God, Trevor's going to see that World War Z. He loved that book. He's going to hate it so bad. And I'll never forget like the immediate exchange we had online after I came out of the theater. And then being like, how was it? My response was like, guys, I can't believe it. World War Z is kind of good. It's like, that's how I had to respond. I was like, I'm here to tell you, like, I actually really enjoyed it. So much so that I went and saw it again once it got its actual release, and I went back with friends and paid to see it a second time. And I bought it on Blu-ray later. In fact, it is that Blu-ray that I revisited for this. And I'm here to tell you that it had been a long time since I watched it. Sometimes your opinions change. No, I still think this is really good. It's not the book. You have to accept that. And that's the big thing is like, as I watched it, I just allowed that to kind of like leave my body and go, okay, it's called World War Z. There's like the barest amount of the book in here. I'll talk about some of those things, but I just had to say like, okay, it's not World War Z, the book, but is this an effective zombie movie? And despite some of the things that people, including me, were like concerned about, the PG-13 rating, the CGI aspect of everything, what was effective about it then is still effective now, in that because of the budget, because of the scale, that we have never seen a zombie movie quite like this, with like this kind of, zombie movies are usually contained to like one location, one little area, or one city. This movie is globetrotting. This movie does take us all around the world and has gigantic scale zombie action that is sometimes hurt by CGI, but in general actually pretty exciting and pretty effective. That opening sequence of the first zombie attack in that traffic jam in Pennsylvania is incredible. I think it's Pittsburgh, right? I think it's where it's supposed to be.
It's Philadelphia.
Oh, it's Philadelphia. Okay, yeah. It seems amazing, right? And the like aerial shots showing the zombies like swarm the streets. The Israel sequence is incredible, and even like whether you like the CGI or not, the visual of the zombie swarms and how they kind of create these mountains of zombies on themselves and then create these like rolling balls of zombies actually kind of rules. I'll have things to say about the things I don't think worked. I talked before about how I think Brad Pitt can be kind of boring when he plays a normal guy. I don't think he's bad in this. I don't know that he's like the most interesting lead character for a movie. But like as a zombie movie, this does a lot of things right. I think just like the scale of it, like how unique it is in the zombie genre. I wouldn't want every zombie movie to be like this, but I'm glad we got one that took advantage of a huge budget to show the zombie apocalypse on a realistic scale that we hadn't got before. And so I think it really, really works in that end. And then the last thing I'll say before turning it over to you, I'm just here to say I really like the third act, and what I know of like what they scrapped and what they turned it into. I think they actually, whether it was Hollywood excess and whether they should have or not, I think they made the right call, because I think the third act is actually one of the most interesting things about this movie, and I can't wait to talk about that to you, because it's such a contrast to what comes before. But I think that's actually brilliant and ends the movie on like this like really kind of interesting note. So yeah, I'm a World War Z defender. I really enjoy this movie. I think it's just a good time. It's short too, like relatively short by blockbuster standards. It's just kind of this in and out, fun, propulsive zombie movie with a lot of great sequences. And so yeah, as long as you can accept it's not the book, it's a good time.
So it's the 10th anniversary of Train to Busan.
Yeah.
It came out in 2016. I bought it on 4K Blu-ray a while ago, and I finally decided to rewatch it a couple of weeks ago. I have also just finished Resident Evil 9 Requiem as well on PS5. So I am primed for zombie shit right now, okay? Mm-hmm. And I say that because I'm so relieved to hear that you think this movie's pretty great.
Yeah.
Because I I enjoyed it. Probably this is my second time seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, my second, really?
Yeah, because the first time I actually skipped out on theaters from it because of the bad press.
Yeah, not surprising.
Yeah, and I remember watching it kind of on, not like VOD. Like, remember the old school way of doing it? Like, it wasn't, by streaming channels, but it was just on like your cable provider or whatever. I watched it like in my room, like a year later, and I was like, okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
This time though, I watched it properly. I watched it on my big TV, my big 75-inch, 4K, blah blah blah, with the lights and the fucking sounds, and I held a screening. Me and my wife, we watched it, and I really should just copy and paste everything you said. So this discussion might be boring. I don't know. Because, Trev, I completely agree. Like, completely agree. We've talked about so many movies with so many issues, with so much post-production tinkering and production issues and recasting this and changing that and re-editing that, and people are getting fired and rehired, blah, blah, blah. You would never know that that's the case in this movie. It's kind of shocking that this movie feels exactly the vision that I would think it was from the start.
You might say, that's weird that Matthew Fox just had one line, but... and we can talk about that in a second.
Totally.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I really, really like this. It is absolutely a globe-trotting adventure movie. And, I'm so glad you immediately talked about the third act, which we'll talk in depth later, I think, because I think I really want to talk about that, especially since I just played Resident Evil 9. So remind me. But this is just so entertaining, and it's so effective. It's very exciting. That opening traffic chaos is just excellent. Like, they do this thing where a guy gets turned, and then all of a sudden it does this voiceover of counting to 12, and it shows Jerry, Brad Pitt, staring, and he's counting too, and then he realizes, oh my god, that guy changed in 12 seconds to something, and he clocks it, and then you get immediate payoff when he gets blood in his mouth, and he's like, now I gotta count down, and it's like the characters are learning the rules with the audience. And
even on a film level, I love the fact, because you said someone does a countdown. It's like it's the kid's stuffed animal that does the countdown, which is so cool. Like, that's such a neat little like filmic thing. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And it's just so effective. Like, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. And I remember the controversy surrounding how these zombies act and look. Okay, I remember that. That was a big point of contention. And I'm sorry. They look really good.
They do, yeah.
You know what? I watched that. I've talked about it many, many times, but I watched that YouTube show or YouTube channel, Corridor Crew, and they do that VFX Artist React video every Saturday morning. And they did one on World War Z a long time ago. I can't remember when. But they even said how ballsy it is to put it all in bright light, daylight. Like, they're so confident in their vision. And it really comes through because... the way these zombies, even when they're CGI at times, the way they throw themselves at people is terrifying. And like the leap when they get you, it's like so animalistic, so aggressive. It's something that I have not seen before. There's the debate of fast versus slow zombies, which I'm sure if we want to have, we can have it now. But it's like there's pros and cons to both. But
yeah, I have no interest in that debate because I have no problem with either. It's
same here. Okay,
it's all dependent on the story you're telling.
I agree. I agree completely. Yeah. So, like, to have them be fast zombies, but then add another layer that they're like this weird hive mind. They become like an amoeba, to overtake a wall. Like, they seem so unstoppable that's the point. So there's so much more urgency for Jerry to find a cure or patient zero or answers. And I just think the look of the zombies looks great for the time especially, but even now it holds up. And I like all of the scope. It really, you do feel the scope of a world war that's happening rather than, like you said, a tight, isolated, cabin or medical facility, which is something we get at the end, which we'll get to. Yeah. But I really like this, and it's ambitious, it's exciting, it's just a damn good summer blockbuster. May I talk about maybe my negatives?
Sure. Yeah, because I have some too, and we'll see if they're the same. Yeah. I mean, I already mentioned one of them. Like I said, I'm not anti Brad Pitt in this. I just think they didn't give him the most interesting character to play. You know.
However,
this is not a character-driven movie necessarily.
However, Brad being calm, gentle, and reaffirming to his children is his best acting yet.
Yes.
This is for my kids who color everything I do. I adore you.
But yes, I would say this. I have a feeling why this is quote unquote forgettable. Okay. And I think it's the PG-13 rating.
Well, but did you watch the unrated director's or like the unrated extended cut?
I watched whatever is on Paramount Plus.
I guess the question, because I think like in general, the version that exists for the most part now is the unrated cut that came later, which to be fair is not that unrated.
No.
You would probably know it from like, was there quite a bit of blood in the sequence where he cuts off Segan's arm, or is it like no blood?
Not a ton that I would.
If there was like any blood, honestly, it's probably the unrated version, because I think in the theater he just like slices her arm and you don't see like anything. And in the unrated cut, they have a couple shots where she holds up her stump and it's like
there's no stump.
Blood.
No, there's none of that.
Okay. So you saw the theatrical. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the one that's on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
For the masses.
So there is an unrated version on physical that has like a little bit of extra gore, and I think it's like 4 minutes longer. So obviously there's like some extended sequences too, but it's not too significant.
Well, I guess what I would say is that kind of proves the neutering of the gore, right? Because if it's only mild amounts, then it's really shots that are taking out, right? Like one of the soldiers that has to kill himself when he gets bit, like that happens totally off screen. Or like when Jerry, impales a zombie in the head with a crowbar or an axe. I can't remember what he did, but that's off screen. Like it's very much at the bottom of the frame that's cut out. So I guess what I'm getting at is on my version, the one that most people will see, and shout out to physical media for the reasons why it sucks that it's going away. But it does maybe stay in the middle ground. It's not horrific enough, and it's not geopolitical enough or thrilling enough. Maybe I'm trying to like get a discussion about why. Maybe a lot of people say that this is just kind of a forgettable fare.
I think we're hitting on all the right things, right? It is definitely, the hardcore horror fans probably want it to be a little more brutal. I think movie fans would probably like it a little bit more if the characters were a little stronger. Like if there was just a little bit more to Jerry, Like this does show the importance of a movie star in that Brad Pitt is naturally charismatic enough, and the screen loves him enough that the fact that the character is kind of a cipher on the page, he at least is still Brad Pitt. So there is still that like movie star element to it, and you do still like root for him.
Yeah.
So that's something, right? But it's like the character is just not quite there. And we've seen Brad Pitt play more interesting characters.
And I think that goes to my thought of Train to Busan.
Yeah.
So watching that movie again after it's been 10 years since I've watched it actually. And I was struck with just how emotional and how strong the character development is in that movie, with all the relationships, and it does it so effective and real, and you just genuinely really, really care. And I'm not saying that I don't care for Jerry and his family, but I think when you remove the family, that they are quote unquote safe for the whole movie, and he's on just an adventure alone. I think it does rip a little bit of drama out, because they try to hook him up with like soldiers here and there, but it's like they're kind of nameless and faceless in my opinion. You know what I mean? So you're really only locked into Jerry.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's the issue, right?
Yeah,
so
you just got bit. Here we go. We got 12 seconds.
So in Train to Busan, it's a father trying to protect his daughter, and obviously who we can all like latch onto that on an emotional level. And like you said here, it's Jerry sent off by himself, and obviously his mission is like the most important mission in the world, right? Can we find the cure to this to stop the world from being overtaken? But like there's something strange about like the way we interact with stories where those stakes are almost too big for us to wrap our heads around. Sure. So like it's easier for us to be like, well, I'd be more emotionally attached if for whatever reason he had to take his daughter with him on this, and now he has to protect her throughout all this. That's why I think the movie actually perks up a little bit when Segan, the soldier, is introduced, because it gives him a sidekick that we have like a little bit, the fact that she gets bit and he has to cut her arm off and puts her into like a vulnerable position fairly quickly. She's not the most amazingly developed character either, but you have like sympathy for her situation, and the fact that like how he immediately is like protective of her forms a bond that you're interested in watching. So like I like those two as a screen duo. But yeah, the family is just kind of nothing in this, and it's like really kind of too bad because it's also super indicative of like that Hollywood thing. I was going to say of the time, but of always, that the wife is played by Muriel Enos, who at this time was like a breakout TV star for The Killing.
Correct.
And Hollywood goes, hey, that's awesome. You're like an amazing actress who just like had top-lined an incredible critically acclaimed show. You know what you should do in Hollywood? You should play the wife.
Who answers
like,
the phone.
Yeah. Now, are you aware of the whole thing that was cut with the family and Matthew Fox? Or do you know about that?
I just know that Matthew Fox's role was almost entirely taken out. That he did have a storyline. I did not look into it.
So if you notice, so Jerry Lane's family, we should just set the table here for people who haven't seen it. So I think we sometimes forget to do that. Early on in the movie, the family escape the initial zombie chaos in the city. And because Jerry is a retired United Nations investigator, the government kind of like, brings them back into the fold, and they take them to where all the like surviving government people are going, which is a fleet of aircraft carriers in the ocean. And I believe this comes from the book, because I know there's a great little detail in this where they show that they have saved like important government documents. Like they have like the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence there. They brought them to the ships because it's important to save those. And I remember that being in the book. But they say like to Jerry, like you have to go back. You can't stay on these ships with your family. You have to go back to the mainland and try and find this cure. And he's like, well, I don't want to. I want to stay with my family. And the way they kind of blackmail him into it is they tell him, well, like, we only are keeping people on these ships who are, like, valuable to us. And if you're not going to do this, your family's not valuable. We will kick you off the ship. Your family will only stay on the ship as long as we know you are out there working for us trying to find this cure. So that's the conflict, right? At a certain point, they believe Jerry is dead. They lose contact with him. So they do kick his family off the ship. And that is where you'll notice Matthew Fox. Matthew Fox is the soldier who comes and escorts the family onto a helicopter and flies off with them. Now, one of the things that was cut from the third act was not just the Battle of Moscow, but there was also an entire storyline where Matthew Fox goes like rogue. And once he takes them to that refugee camp we see them in at the end, he decides that like, he's like, your husband's dead. You should just be with me. And he basically tries to like kidnap the family. And there's a whole thing where they have to try and get away from him. And I think it probably led to like some kind of confrontation with him and Brad Pitt at the end.
That was just Matthew Fox acting as himself.
Speaking of actors we like that are maybe not the best people.
Just trying to steal Muriel Enos away.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was all cut too. So now you are left with like, wow, that's weird that like Jack from Lost just shows up for like one brief second in this. But yeah, his whole thing was cut here where he was like an additional villain, which is kind of like, I don't mind that that's gone, I guess. That definitely feels like them trying to incorporate something that would be in a George Romero movie, obviously, because the Romero movies always hit on how humanity goes to shit too during all this, and that's kind of like, that's not here as much.
No, that's not here really at all. The whole movie kind of excises anything about humanity is losing their minds, other than like that, like the supermarket scene and stuff, like where people are raiding the shopping market, and then the two guys have like the wife on the ground, like that was
that scene has a great moment though, and this movie is a movie that's populated with like great little moments. And I think the moment where he's trying, they stop at the supermarket because their daughter is asthmatic and she does not have her asthma medicine with her, and she starts going into an asthma attack and they have to get the medicine, so he goes into the pharmacy, and there's a great little just brief little moment where like this like very shady looking guy comes out with a gun and holds a gun on them, and you think he's going to like rob them, and instead he sees the daughter and can tell there's something wrong. He says, what do you need? And when Jerry tells him what he's looking for, this guy who's clearly like, a tweaker who has been here, like knows where to steal the right drugs from, he finds them the right medicine and gives it to them and tells them how much to take and everything. And like, I like those little moments, and this movie is like kind of populated with stuff like that. Those little details are what keep this movie like pretty alive throughout too. Like it's like big scale, but it always does remember to, in each of the sequences, to have a moment of like small humanity. I'm sure we probably want to talk about like the David Morris scene, which is like an incredible like little character moment, and just like tons of stuff like that. So I'm glad the movie like comes down to earth at times too for little humanity moments like that.
Well, we'll talk about that scene now. I'm with you.
Because did you see that I'm sure you did, as in your research, that like at some point they said Bryan Cranston signed on for this in like a small but impactful role, but then he had to drop out.
It's probably that one, right?
It's got to be that one, right?
Yeah,
That's my
totally.
assumption. Yeah.
Yeah.
David Morse rules though, so that's okay. One of the places, this is basically a movie that's built of sequences. You are following Jerry's like travel across the globe, and one of his stops is at Camp Humphreys in South Korea, where he meets up with some soldiers who, this is apparently where the entire zombie outbreak started. And when they get there, they have this like ex-CIA officer in a jail cell there, and he gives like important exposition about what he thinks is happening and how this like fight started in North Korea with the zombies. And it's David Morse, and he's playing a ex-CIA officer who has just gone crazy essentially from his experiences here, and he has been pulling out his own teeth one by one, and we watch him do that. And again, this is a moment that like the pulling out the one tooth, I bet you it might be like a little bit more brutal in the version I watched than it is in yours, because it goes on for quite a bit.
I don't think he's pulling them out really much at all in my edited version.
Yeah, we see him like full on pull one out in the unrated version. But then he tells this like wild story, and I think this comes from the book as well. Like it's hard for me to remember. I can remember certain things are from the book. I have to imagine this is, because it seems like it is. But he tells this story where he's like talking about how like North Korea essentially, we can't get into North Korea obviously because it's North Korea. But he says like they're not even having an issue with the zombies, and Brad Pitt's like, why? And he's like, well, North Korea, has entire control over their populace, and they just ordered everyone to like have all their teeth pulled out. And if people can't bite each other, then the zombie infection can't spread. And there's a great moment where Brad Pitt's just like, like bullshit, and he's like, well, maybe. And I love that the movie leaves it open, like, I don't know, is this guy crazy or did that happen? We don't know, and we'll never know. Like, yeah, but yeah, that's just a great little scene too. And David Morse is one of those guys who can come in and steal a movie with like one scene, and like it's perfect here.
Yeah, I agree. I also love that they're using the term zombie in this movie. I think that's something that, especially the 28 Days Later movie and then Weeks, were annoyed me. And I think you too.
Infected,
that it was always infected, and it was like this big. Speaking of fast versus slow zombies, that dumb debate. There was the one about, they're not zombies, they're just infected. They have rabies or whatever. And then finally, spoilers, in 28 years later, they finally just said the fucking word and called them zombies. And I'm so grateful for that, because yes, stop beating around the bush. And I appreciated that right away. And they had that great moment in the ship when they're like, they call it zombies, and they're like, nah, no way, that's not real. And I do like that they kind of call attention to, like, zombies are known in the world through fiction, and now they are real. So I like
that. That is used in the best way in one of the scenes that is like one of the direct ports from the book, and that is like one of the characters that does come directly from the book. There's a couple. Like one of them is and this is a great moment too. One of them is the young virologist who goes with Jerry to South Korea and accidentally immediately kills himself, which is very funny, darkly funny, obviously.
It's funny, shocking, but immediately ups the stakes, because you're like, well, fucking now what?
Yeah. But the other character that does come directly from the book is the character of Jürgen Wormbraum, which is the Mossad official that he goes to visit in Jerusalem. And the story he tells is directly from the book, because I always remember this from the book, and that's in the movie too. And it's great, and it ties into that idea of like people know the word zombies. And basically, when they get to Israel, like Israel's doing really well, right? Like Israel is not having any problems with the zombies. But Brad Pitt is really surprised to see that Israel, as we alluded to at the beginning, very unrealistically, Israel is opening their gates and allowing people from neighboring countries in to protect them. And Brad Pitt's even like, you're letting people in. Obviously that's shocking, because like they're letting Palestinians in. And Jürgen Wurmbrand says like, any human we save is not a zombie we have to fight. Yeah. But I love the story that Jürgen Wurmbrand tells, which is from the book, where he says, like, when Jerry asks him, how did you guys get like a quick start on this? How did you guys get a heads up? And Jürgen Wurmbrand says, well, it's the 10th man. It's the idea that we as Israel, we have been caught, unawares by so many terror plots in the past, because we like would hear something and we would just poo-poo it and say, no, we don't think that's true. So now we have this idea called the 10th man, where any kind of intel we get, no matter how unbelievable it is, if 9 people think it's unbelievable, there's a 10th man who has to act like it's true and like investigate it to that degree. And he says, when we started getting communiques saying there are zombies in other countries, I was the 10th man. So I had to treat that like it was real. And because I did that and because I enacted these things, that's how Israel was able to kind of get the heads up. Great, like, little idea. Again, so like this is a movie that's full of like big, dumb zombie stuff, but then it's got some really smart stuff in it too. And a lot of that comes right from the book, but great. Like, if you have to keep shit from the book and excise a lot of it, like, at least they kept some of the more interesting things from the book. You know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, those little moments are so good, and those little details. And then again, just every sequence is just exciting. You know, like the movie really kicks into gear many times. Like there are multiple big exciting action sequences, and even like the one on the plane, like it becomes Plane to Busan. Like it's so awesome. And like there's a zombie that's been, you know, locked away in the washroom or a cargo area, and we all know how loud planes are, so it wasn't actually unbelievable to me that you couldn't hear it, you know. So when it does pop out, it and just completely infects everyone, and it just immediately you're like, well, how the fuck are they gonna get out of this one? And you know, he blows out the side of the plane with a grenade, and it's just like, oh my god, like this is so good. I'm actually like pretty shocked how tempered the reaction to this movie was, and it must be because of everybody knew the production stuff, right? Like, do you think people were going into this thinking of the problems?
I think you're remembering it that way, but like I remember it the opposite, to where I think the reaction to this movie was good. It was good, right? It was a big hit, and I think the general vibe was like, wow, we all expected this to be unwatchable garbage, and it's actually pretty good, or at least like watchable, you know? So it's I wouldn't say this movie was like, this wasn't like 100% Rotten Tomatoes thing or anything. Obviously it had its detractors, but I think in general the vibe was like, ooh, that turned out way better than we thought it would, you know, given all the production stuff. But I think you're right that it feels a little forgotten today. Like, I mean, I guess it's not forgotten. Like, obviously Paramount has been, and we'll get into this, I know you still want to talk about the ending, but you know, Paramount's been trying to like do more with this ever since it came out. So it's, they know there's an audience for it, but it doesn't feel as big as maybe it could and should. And that might speak to like people being like, you know, I think there's still a little bit of like of the leftover residual. It's not really the book, you know, and more people have come to the book since the movie and be like, you know, so maybe that hurts it. I don't know. It's really hard to say. Okay.
Well, let's talk about that ending because for something that was so fiddled with is quite possibly the best part of the movie.
It proves the lie to like the idea that movies just have to keep escalating and getting bigger and bigger, right? And this proves that sometimes if you've already been big throughout, if you have a gigantic action sequence in your first act and your second act, it might be more effective to kind of go smaller in the third act and like kind of like temper things down and end on like a quiet but kind of more terrifying note. And it also gives you the best of both worlds. And this is what I remember telling my friends after I came out of the theater, was like, you know, because we were talking about that whole debate about fast zombies and like the CGI zombies. And I go, yes, this movie's full of all that. But then the third act goes into like way more just Romero territory.
Totally.
Like it just like slows down and you get zombies that have gone into like kind of hibernation and you have to like kind of sneak by them. And it's like, it feels way more Romero coded than the rest of the movie. And I love this film has the time to do both and put us in a more contained, more claustrophobic, more scary environment with them, where you can't just run out, you know, out into the open to get away from them. You're locked in with them in this like, you know, part of the building. Great stuff. Also just full of actors I like. I don't know we're going to talk about that, but yeah, this third act rules.
Yeah, and I mentioned that I just wrapped up playing Resident Evil 9, which we did a success to series a while ago of the Resident Evil franchise with Mila Jovovich. So go check that out if you haven't. Success to series is a spin-off show in a show where we talk about a successful franchise. We talk about why it's a success. So check that one out. That's a lot of fun. But I mentioned in that episode how the games have become first person. And then I remember you were like a little bit bummed out about that. Now, with Resident Evil 9, it's half and half. Speaking of best of both worlds, you play as one character, which is a first person, and then you play as Leon in third person. Okay. And both stories are intertwined So you play for a bit as the girl, and then it'll cut because Leon has to get to where you are at that point in time in the story. It's amazing. It's my game of the year. I absolutely fucking loved it. Well, anyways, you go to a medical facility, of course. And I loved watching this movie where they're in a medical facility and the zombies are doing exactly that, like, hibernation thing when nobody's around, where they're just like, like standing around, and you have to sneak around them. And, like, even there's a moment in the game where there's, like, broken glass, right? And if you step on the broken glass, you know, the zombies know you're there. And, like, that happens in this movie. And I'm just like, playing that game and watching this movie almost back to back was just like awesome. Like, you have limited weapons. There's a moment where Jerry has an axe, but then he has to sacrifice using his axe to keep a door open. So now he has like nothing. And I'm like, man, how fucking Resident Evil is this? You have to be stealthy. It is a tonal shift and swing, but like you said, it's a little bit of a breather. You know,
the movie has earned it by this point, right?
I agree.
Like he has been through so much, and we as the audience by proxy have been through so much that it's like you're like kind of like, geez, I think the movie kind of needs to slow down. I think that's probably one of the issues people had with that Battle of Moscow. Is it's just like after what he experiences in Israel in particular, like. Yeah. Can you go much bigger than that, really? Like, there's no need to. And like I said, it's also I think the third act reminds you that it's a horror movie. You know, Correct. It's very much a zombie action movie until the third act, and then it plays more in the tropes of horror in the third act. So him and Segan, the Israeli soldier who's you know tagging along with him now, they end up at this like World Health Organization facility. Kind of a little script convenient that they just happened to, their plane crashes pretty close to the facility they were trying to get to. You know, okay, there are things like that in the movie.
Also convenient that they lived.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And the only two that lived as well. I'm surprised they didn't show that little like Chihuahua like come out of the wreckage. Like that's like a studio note I thought would for sure happen.
A little too much Resident Evil at that point if it was.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
but yeah, they end up in this WHO facility, and again, like a nice little detail that's been peppered throughout the movie is at times Jerry has noticed zombies like just ignoring certain people, like just running by them and not attacking them.
Great moments, by the way, like really great. Talking about your little moments, those are so effective when they're running by like the old man who's like obviously terrified but just like doesn't know what to do, or the little kid crouches down, holds his head. Like so good. Great filmmaking.
The little kid who is notably bald, right? So like,
Correct.
Like Brad Pitt sees that and kind of puts together, oh, that kid is probably undergoing cancer treatment. The old man is obviously he's terminal, and he says like, I think I've figured out that because this is a virus wants a healthy host. So the zombies just will not attack people that are terminal. Like if someone has a terminal illness, they will leave them alone. And he says, I want to test this. The only way to test this is one of us needs to inject ourselves with a terminal disease and see if we can walk by the zombies undetected. And they say, that's great. We are a World Health Organization. We obviously have terminal diseases here. The only problem is they are locked up in the second part of the facility, which is just swarming with zombies. Yeah. So that's what leads to what we're talking about, where now we have this great third act where Brad Pitt and his like a couple of his compadres have to like just kind of slowly try and sneak through this facility. And of course things go wrong and it turns into like more of a chase. But it's just great. And like I said, awesome actors in this. I'm just going to run down a few of them.
Sure.
We get Moritz Bleibtreu, who I will always like because he plays the boyfriend in Run Lola Run, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. The great Ruth Negga, who a super underrated actress, I think. I have like a little bit of a crush on her too. She played Tulip in the Preacher show. She rules. But most importantly for me, and I think you know this, is we get Peter Capaldi here. And it's just so funny because Peter Capaldi, most people will know now, especially as the 12th Doctor in Doctor Who. My favorite Doctor. He is my favorite Doctor of them all. His run is my favorite. I think he's just the best in that role. It's very, very funny on this that if you look in the credits, he is credited as Who Doctor. And it was only like 2 months after this movie came out that he was announced as the 12th Doctor, and that was like being kept a secret obviously the whole time because they did the big reveal live on TV. So when they made this movie, the people making the movie actually knew that he had been cast, and they all had to keep it a secret. But then they did that as like a fun little Easter egg thing where in the credits he's Who Doctor, and then 2 months later he was cast as Doctor Who. Just kind of perfect.
Love it.
You know, none of them have like a lot to do here, but it's just great to see like actors I like again, just even in small roles. You know.
Totally. Yeah. Okay, spoilers. We'll talk spoilers now, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're in the facility. They have to go get the infectious diseases. And of course, we have to put that on Jerry's shoulders, right?
Of course.
Or else you don't have a movie, right? Can't give it to the one-armed Israeli chick. You can't do that.
That'd be really funny if he's just like, you got to take it. You're already down an arm, you know.
Totally. But Brad Pitt injects himself with something and tests it. Great moment again. Opens the door. Zombie there. Ignores him. Grabs the case. Walks through. Allows all these zombies. He like, oh yeah, the biggest Pepsi product placement ever.
Yeah.
Which actually, it was hilarious because he opens a Pepsi. My wife immediately clocks it, and we start laughing. But then it does lead to a moment that makes sense. That he breaks open the vending machine. All the cans of pop hit the ground, attracts the zombies, and they run past him. It is such a good moment. And it feels so good. It's like, holy shit, it's working. Now, I will say this, Trev. Mm-hmm. The ending then becomes pretty montagey.
It does, yeah.
And raises a ton of questions.
Yeah. This is where you can really feel the, oh shit, what do we do at the end? And
Correct.
Tinkering. Yeah.
Because this feels slightly set up for a sequel that we never got, but also oddly ties a bow. And it doesn't really commit to either. So it lives in La La Land.
We see like 10 seconds of the Battle of Moscow footage that they filmed.
Correct.
Like what they like.
Yes.
It's just incorporated in here. But yeah, we get this like kind of like basic screenwriting narrative, the voiceover from Brad Pitt where he talks about like, how this is just the start of the war. But yeah, I think the problem with it is it's so clearly sequel bait, because I think it even ends with him saying like, the fight's not over.
Yeah, our war has just begun.
Our war has just begun, and then I'm guessing you had the thought too. I'm just like, why? Like,
yeah, they
you figured
solved
it out. Yeah, you solved it. Like you're showing us how you solved it. The movie, your montage is literally showing you drop off vaccines. By the way, also another thing, very, very like the fact that this comes down to like the world has to take a vaccine and everyone's just fine with it. So
I know. I looked at Brittany right away and it was like, okay, never gonna happen.
yeah, maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's why the war goes on.
Yeah, that would be the
like
sequel.
We find out like. Yeah, the sequel, we find out that actually, because they talk about how like the president and vice president and like all the way down the chain of command are dead in this movie. Yeah. The sequel revealed that RFK Jr. has become president, and he's just like, and they're like, no, we figured it out. We have the vaccines. Like, I don't care.
Because this is Brad Pitt's idea, they bring him in front of Congress and they have to like question him like Fauci.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's like,
yeah. But that's my issue at the end is like they're showing them drop off the vaccine to countries and they're showing people take it and zombies walking by them.
Yeah,
and then you hear him on the voiceover going, "The war's not over." I'm like, well, it pretty much looks over to me. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah.
So that's all confusing. And then also, you did tell us that first of all, it does drop that whole patient zero thing, right? Like the whole movie, they're kind of searching for patient zero, and then they kind of just forget about it, which is fine. But coming to the conclusion about an infectious disease camouflage is such an interesting and cool decision or concept, but it has so many questions. Like, so what did he give himself? Like, so we're just supposed to infect the whole world? Well, we all got cancer now. Like, there's so many repercussions from that is, interesting for a follow-up, but I felt like it's almost trying to be too easy.
I feel like they say something really quickly at some point where it's like basically what their at least vaccine they create at the end is like basically a modified. It's like meningitis, right? Isn't that what they say?
It's Spider-Man's inhibitor, like universal inhibitor on everybody.
Yeah, I believe it is like a slightly nullified version of meningitis or something. But like it does raise questions because like you said, like he just
takes a random one, by the way.
He does take a random one. There's like that's the drama of the moment too, right? Where they're even saying he can't communicate with them. They're watching him on the security cameras, and he doesn't know what he's taking. And they're saying, "Oh God, if he takes the one in that freezer, it won't matter. He'll just die immediately." Yeah. And we never find out. But then we show that whatever he took, we then see Ruth Negga like giving him ostensibly, I would guess, the antidote to it, to like cure him. And then they show him and Segan like leaving the facility, and I was just thinking like, well, I mean, maybe they shouldn't have given him that antidote yet, right? Like he's still got to like get back to where he's trying to get to, and now he does not have that in him anymore, so he doesn't have the camouflage. So yeah, there's a lot of problems that
and
the
now
movie
there's a
just kind of
conspiracy
glosses over.
that the World Health Organization has cures to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I do think that's one of his best acting moments in the movie, though, when he's like, he figures it out and he's talking to them and they say like, well, they ask if it's a cure and he's like, it's not a cure. It's camouflage. It's camouflage. Like that's so a really cool. Good, just like, yeah.
Another moment of acting from Brad Pitt that I really, really liked is when he immediately freaks out at that other doctor saying, do you have a family? And he's like, no. And he's like, see, you don't fucking understand. You don't know what it's like. And he's like, I saw what used to be my wife kill my daughter. Yeah. And then Brad immediately is like, oh shit, sorry, dude. Like, like bring it in, brother. I really liked that. It was very human and it was very, very sad. It was very, very effective.
Yeah.
So we like this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you want sequels? Would you have wanted sequels?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I think the end is a little sloppy in how it tries to set them up, but
sure.
I definitely would have been there on day one for sequels after especially like how well this one turned out, given what a shit show it was, and the idea like, wow, now that we get to make a sequel and hopefully have their act together a little bit more from the get go, like that. Yeah. Maybe the sequel can be even better.
Totally, and it's not for lack of trying.
No,
because this movie was a hit.
Yeah.
And they genuinely tried to get this trilogy in the works. And especially since there's that little show, The Walking Dead, was on. So, we had zombie mania for like 10 years. The person that was reportedly going to take over for the sequel was J.A. Bayona. Mm-hmm. So he actually went on to make Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. He's a great Spanish director. I love his movie, The Orphanage. Love that movie. But he was chosen to direct the film, and then Stephen Knight was supposed to write the script. And it just fell apart because other people's commitments. It was taking too long to get together.
Yeah,
and
it's one of those ones where they did keep announcing like release dates and stuff, and it just never really got going. Yeah.
And then in August of 2016, David Fincher wanted to make this movie with Brad Pitt. Wanted to reunite, get the band back together, as they say.
This is the great what if of this movie, obviously. Yeah.
Yes. Man, it sucks that he was making Mindhunter. Because, like, David Fincher has gotten in bed with Netflix over all these years, right? Mm-hmm. And Mindhunter was a hit, and he was going to be making that show, and never finished it, by the way. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that he's kind of stuck in Streamingville because, this would have been super interesting. They really spent a lot of money also on the pre-production of this. They had several months of pre-production. They staffed for over 5 countries worth of crew members for this movie until it was eventually canceled in February of 2019. So this was like right there. This is like the ultimate blue balls of a production.
It was always such a weird story, right? But that's what was interesting about it. It's like, obviously, a lot of people were like, what the hell is David Fincher doing making a sequel to World War Z? Like, that does feel like a little like Mad Libs. Like, that can't be right? Like, why would he want... Like, especially after his experience on Alien 3, it was kind of... I think they kind of assumed, like, he would never do a sequel to something he didn't generate originally, right? Like, he's only going to do... He'll start a franchise. He'll sign on for something like Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. He will do IP, but he wants to start it, right? He won't do a sequel. But I think it was the lure of working with Brad Pitt, his good close friend and close collaborator. And also, like... David Fincher does strike me as a filmmaker who does want to dabble in different genres and do different things. And probably the notion of, like, a large-scale zombie movie might have been appealing to him. And obviously because of it, it was just one of those things where you probably feel the same way because it felt so weird and unexpected. That's why I wanted to see it. I'm like, I want to see what David Fincher's zombie movie looks like. I know it'd be very gray, I can tell you that. But beyond that, I don't know. But I'm definitely interested in it. And I'm still to this day really bummed that didn't happen. I do think it's funny that according to Hollywood Reporter, a source say one of the reasons it ultimately was canceled was because the Chinese government has a ban now on any films featuring zombies or ghosts. So they realized that they would not have any Chinese box office to help prop up the film for them. Pretty funny, because I know that's been something that Disney has been concerned about a lot with a lot of the Marvel movies too. But,
yeah. Less concerned recently because they've really China has really clamped down on, like, even more so on their movies coming into their country. But around that time, between like 2010 and 2019, it was a major thing. We actually talked about it pretty in depth in our Karate Kid episode, 2012.
Well, this was the period where you would even have like large scale movies like, something like Age of Ultron filming whole additional subplots just for like the Chinese release.
Correct. But this movie or sequel keeps on chugging. This is why I say it's controversial. Because as early as 2026, this year, at CinemaCon, which was only a few months ago, Paramount announced that they're going to do another World War Z film, which will be a sequel.
So once Skydance bought Paramount, so David Ellison, his company Skydance, as we all know, bought Paramount, and as we all know, he was one of the producers on this project, right? And something people talked about is like David Ellison has, obviously we have our thoughts about David Ellison. We've alluded to some of them in this episode, and maybe some of the story things he brought in and some of his politics, and just his like general seems to be trying to destroy Hollywood. But he is a movie fan, right? And he's proud of the movies that he's made and shepherded. And it definitely felt like once he was like in control of Paramount, he wanted to kind of put a fast track on some of the projects he'd been involved with before. So that's why we actually have like a new Star Trek movie kind of getting back, kind of fast tracked a little bit, because he was involved in the Calvinverse movies with Skydance, and now he wants to get World War Z going because that was a success for him. So he wants to get a new one going. Do you think? I think I know your answer to this, but do you assume that whatever comes of this will just kind of be like a reboot? Like, do you think Brad Pitt will be in it, or is this just going to be a new World War Z movie?
I guess maybe I'm wrong when I said they announced it as a sequel. I guess they just said a new World War Z film.
Yeah, a new World War Z film, yeah.
Maybe just tangentially related.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
In the world, right? It's like,
oh, I don't think they're gonna discount the first movie.
No. That's what I mean. When I say reboot, it's like it'll be like a 28 years later thing, right? Where it's like, it's the same world 10 years later. We think we thought we'd conquered it, and it starts back up, but we don't need Jerry Lane there, right? All that stuff happened, but we have a new lead character. Yeah.
And all his kids are 10 years older anyway, so it's like it's hard to do that.
The rumor, and it hasn't been confirmed, but a lot of people seem to think that the filmmaker that is probably involved in this now is Dan Trachtenberg, who signed like a deal with Paramount, right? Like, people were really upset about that because they thought he would just be making Predator movies for the rest of his life. And he said, hold on, I'm going to take a little break from Predator to go do this, like, I think it's like a 4 or 5 year deal with Paramount. And they didn't announce what he was getting involved with, but at the same time that deal was announced, they were also like, we're also going to be doing a new World War Z movie. And it's like, oh, maybe that's what he's getting involved in. Yeah.
I am not against that.
No, not at all.
No, that's
Dan Trachtenberg has become one of those I trust this guy empirically at this point. Yeah.
And he's come into franchise territory and made things tangentially related, right? Like 10 Cloverfield Lane is awesome.
Yeah.
Tangentially related. Doesn't discount the first movie, but definitely its own thing.
Yep.
Very interesting. Okay, well, if that's the case, I mean, you heard it here first, I think,
And like, the way he treats the Predator franchise is also like kind of a good way to think about what you could do with a World War Z franchise, right? Because if it really gets going, you don't need to just have one World War Z movie every 4 or 5 years. You can have, even look at something like his animated Predator anthology film. You could do that for World War Z. You could have a World War Z series on Paramount streaming service at the same time you're doing movies. Like there is. I know that we all got really sick of Walking Dead, so let's tread lightly here. But it is a large world to play with.
Oh, I agree, and that was actually part of my notes. Was that World War Z is kind of primed for long form storytelling, right? Yeah. Like with this movie alone, I felt like, oh yeah, you could totally get a trilogy starring Jerry Lane. Like that's absolutely. So if it went to a streaming service to do an HBO show, like that would be. Well, I guess it would be Paramount, but it would be awesome. I guess Paramount might own HBO. What the fuck? What's happening anymore? What's that Family Guy joke? You got my chocolate in my peanut butter. Well, you got my peanut butter in my chocolate when they create Reese's Pieces. you remember that?
I hate Family Guy, so
I know. Yeah.
You know, Lois, if everybody was as close-minded as you, the world wouldn't have some of its most inspired creations.
Man, this chocolate bar is delicious. Oh, yeah, I love peanut butter.
I'm Officer Reeses. What happened here?
He got peanut butter on my chocolate. He got chocolate in my peanut butter.
Anyway. Well, that would be cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'm on board. So, if Brad Pitt came back, though, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm also not opposed to that. Like if they say tomorrow that, hey, World War Z 2 is happening and actually is the continuation of Jerry Lane's story, I'm down for that as well. So,
And how fascinating that the online randomizer picked this movie for us right now, hey? And then, the David Fincher, Brad Pitt comeback story for World War Z never happened for a sequel that he wasn't involved in to begin with. Mm-hmm. And that's happening in like a couple months from now with The Adventures of Cliff Booth.
Although, I'm sure, did you see that also The Adventures of Cliff Booth is currently going into reshoots for its third act? So,
oh, it is.
And there's the release might be delayed because they just engaged in like weeks of reshoots on it. So,
and I guess because it's going straight to streaming. Yeah. If there's no theatrical, it doesn't really matter, right?
I think they were going to give it one of those it's in theaters for like a week or two
for awards.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well, whatever. I mean, if it turns out like this, then
I know. Yeah, I'm still interested in it. It's still there. It still has that same thing where it's like a Tarantino script directed by David Fincher. That's just like maybe it'll be bad, but it's just so interesting that you have to see it.
Oh, 100%. So, yeah. I completely agreed. Yep. Okay. That's all I have to say about World War Z. Mm-hmm. I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a really great way to end Summer Surprise. Little like up and down journey here this summer, but I'm glad we went out on a high.
Correct, because if you weren't paying attention, listeners, or if you're new, we started with Action Jackson from 1988. Mm-hmm. Then we moved on to Car 54, Where Are You, 1994. You're probably wondering, what the fuck is that movie? Well, you and me both. And I watched it. And then we just talked about The Green Hornet. 2011. Yeah. So if you haven't, go ahead.
By the way, sorry, not to.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't listened to those, go back and listen to it. But also, you asked this question in the last episode, and I don't know if you clocked it, but in this movie, there is a moment where when he arrives on the ship and and people are asking him like, "Oh, you got out, you survived." All the soldiers start asking him about different cities, and you hear them all listing cities, and you hear one person in the background go, "What about Detroit?"
Oh,
did you notice that?
God. I did not notice that.
Yeah.
Holy I cannot escape your fucking state. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Trapped. Well, speaking of Trapped, we have 2 more episodes coming up. We're moving into a new theme. Just a month this time. We're keeping it short and sweet. It is September. It is autumn, but most of all, it's fall. So listeners, it's fall year to franchise.
Hold for applause.
I was going to say please clap. But yes, fall year to franchise. It's been sitting there for quite a while, but we finally got there. We're looking at Fallen from 2016.
Mm-hmm. Don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. I can't remember. I can't.
I mean, obviously, I put it on the list, but I don't know what it is. So that's a great sign.
It quite possibly is a YA.
It's got to be YA bullshit, right?
Yeah. But the next one is more interesting.
The poster. Oh God, yeah, it's definitely YA bullshit.
Okay. Yeah. We try to avoid them.
Yeah.
But the more interesting pick, because this guy's having a moment for a couple years now, but especially this year, holy shit, starred in Project Hail Mary, just got announced as Ghost Rider in the MCU, and 2 years ago, he made a movie that bombed called The Fall Guy from 2024, and that's, of course, Ryan Gosling. So, perfect timing to talk about the Gosling, because we have, in The Nice Guys,
Yeah.
which is a great movie. Go listen to that episode. That was awesome. But I'm looking forward to revisiting The Fall Guy. I have seen it. I believe you waited for this episode, right?
I did. I wanted to see it, and then it came out, and immediately everyone's like, it's not going to get the sequels it wanted. And I told you, I was like, you know what, I'll just wait. And so I'm glad that we are able to get to it so quickly, because I didn't want to wait too long. Yeah.
No, of course. So yes, fall year to franchise kicks off September 8th and September 22nd with Fallen 2016 and The Fall Guy from 2024. And that'll do it. So follow along at F2FPod. That's at F2, the number 2 FPod on all the socials. Like us there, like us everywhere. Rate, review, whatever you do. Like, subscribe, join the tribe. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't get eaten by a zombie. I don't know what
you like it now. Well, yeah. Okay, let's just go.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no funny outros. None.
Yeah. Why start now? Yeah.
No, why start now? Oh, you know what we didn't mention? How cool that the Muse score was.
We didn't mention that, yeah.
We didn't mention that at all, but whatever. It's not. It's only like one kind of cue that happens like.
It is, but I remember that was like,
awesome.
This is funny is how good, like how much like just a single piece of music can kind of change your mood. I should have mentioned that in my story at the beginning. Remember I said I went in with my Dukes up and everything, and then that opening music started playing, and I was like, fuck, this music in this montage is like really setting a good mood right in the first couple seconds of the movie. So
no, that was awesome. That was awesome.